have when I was a student at Vernon Hills was when I was on the varsity soccer team. I was a sophomore and we were playing in the conference championship. We beat Stevenson, and that was the first Vernon Hills team to ever beat a Lakeside school. So it was a big accomplishment for me and my teammates.
It was very cool to be, that first group and really set hopefully a good standard for the rest of the classes that have come through here and start all those traditions that first couple of years.
When I think of my time at Vernon Hills, I think about going to football games and basketball games to support my friends, to support my school, and I remember it being just a great way to hang out with my friends.
My senior year and going to the football games. That year I happened to win Most Spirited, and I remember every football game I would try and paint my face a different way or a different design, and I just remember just like being with your friends, and it's such an exciting time, and the football games are so much fun.
We went to the Hill at Big Bear, and about 50 or 60 of the seniors after we graduated, and watched the sun come up there, and then went to Denny's for breakfast, and then we just went home and crashed because we had been up for, 20 some hours at that point. But that was probably my favorite memories, just after graduation, after we all realized we were still going to stay friends.
So when we got over here to Vernon Hills, we wanted to make sure the freshmen felt welcome, and hopefully it still is like that today. Just trying to get through all the classes and really, trying to figure out what high school is like, what, types of things that I needed to do to be successful in the classroom, playing sports, also on the athletic field, and balancing all of that. It's probably the toughest thing, for freshmen to do, and it was for me as well.
When I was a freshman, I was very quiet and timid around my teachers and other adults. I was afraid to ask help when I needed it, and I didn't realize until I was the end of my sophomore year to my junior year that it was okay to ask questions, and you'll go farther in life when you're not afraid to ask the questions.
You have a little bit of a feeling like you're a little bit lost at first, like you got to find your place. When I was a freshman, I remember it was a little bit unique situation. There weren't any seniors here in the building, so it was really a good opportunity to make friends with everybody and get involved and be active in as many things as you can. I think if over time that feeling goes away and you feel more at home here.
I do remember what I was like as a freshman. It wasn't a good situation. I think I had just grown about 6 inches and hadn't quite figured out how to work things yet. I still had my braces. I had lots of acne. It was just a mess, the stereotypical freshman. And it took me until about junior and senior year to really be comfortable with everything around school. High school was pretty scary as a freshman, but it got a lot easier.
As a freshman walking into this big school, I remember not knowing what to expect, being quiet, being a little apprehensive, and just being a little intimidated by everything going on around me.
Being on a sports team or being involved in fine arts truly makes you manage your time better. Not only do you have less time, so you have less time to mess around because you need to get things done, but there's also people looking out for you. There's coaches, there's parents, there's teammates, and you have to perform in the classroom to be able to perform in these clubs, sports, or athletics.
I was involved in both athletics and theater especially, and student council as well. I was actually voted the second most involved in school activities, which I was mad about. I thought it was the first, #1, most involved in school activities. But I think the best advice I could give for that is to make use of your study halls. There were definitely some days where I used study hall to sleep or hang out with my friends, and then after I got home from a late practice or rehearsal, I just had too much homework to deal with, and I lost a lot of sleep during those days. So the days I made use of my study hall, even my lunch study halls, if it's only 25 minutes, get work done, and then when you go home you can relax.
When I was at Vernon Hills, I played a sport every single season I was here, so it was very important to keep a calendar and a schedule, use my assignment notebook, and now you can use Google Calendars, but just to make sure to stick to my schedule and have lots of time management and not wait to the last minute to do all my homework assignments.
To make use of my time in study hall, lunch study hall was the important time to make sure I was doing my homework. Even if the other students were goofing around in study hall, I knew I had to do my homework.
Cut down, the work into very manageable tasks, things that last 45 minutes to an hour. If you have 2 or 3 hours to work on something, that may take you an hour and a half, well, do it 45 minutes at a time or a half hour at a time and take little breaks here and there, because it makes it, much more manageable. It's less overwhelming, because I know students can get frustrated and discouraged by sitting down and trying to do something that's going to take such a long time. And sometimes, you'll give up or quit and you won't have your homework done for the next day. So.
And even in downtime for practices, like if we were on a bus going to a game somewhere, or if I wasn't on stage for one particular scene for a play I was in, then I would use those times to get my homework done, and then wouldn't have so much when I got home.
I think using your assignment notebook and any other form of iPod, iPhone, anything to keep track of things that you have to do really helps you plan your day a little bit better.
I actually learned to manage my time by the older players on my soccer team. I was a freshman, they were a senior, and they kind of took me under their wing, and they showed me to always do my homework right away, never wait until the morning to do it.
I learned not to put things off till the last second, and I also learned to use my study halls wisely and not as a social hour. And any time that teachers gave us time in class to work, to make sure to use that time to do actual homework.
But for anything, if you're struggling with any type of thing, find somebody that's done it before. Find, teachers or administration, or, if you get out into the real world later on, your boss or a family member, something like that. Somebody who's been through it, has experienced what you're going through, and then can help you along the way and try to, point you in the right direction and get you on the right path. It opens a lot more doors for you when you get good grades in high school. All right, not to say that that should be the only thing on people's mind and stress you out or anything like that, but I was a little limited in some of the colleges that I could choose. Luckily sports was a good avenue for me, but sports can only take you so far. So getting good grades is important. It's important to work hard, and like I said, the number one thing, do your homework, do it correctly, make sure that you're asking people for help when you don't have, or when you don't know an answer, or when you're struggling with a concept, and that'll make the quizzes and tests come that much easier, and the grades should, they should work themselves out.
Don't be afraid to go to the Cougar table, the right place. Go ask your teacher for help after school. And what I used to do is I always used to rewrite my notes from the chapter, and that really helped me get good grades in classes like biology and U.S. history.
I think as long as you stay on top of your classes, as soon as your teacher hands something out, then you should ask the questions you need to know, because if it gets to be a couple days later and you're not clear on things, then you start to get behind. I think the best approach is a proactive approach. Always get things done one day earlier if you can, as opposed to saving it for the last night. And that really helped me pick my grades up. If I was struggling in one class, I would talk to my teachers a lot, get some individual help, and get back on track.
In order to get good grades, I think it's important to pay attention in class, take good notes, make sure you can actually read your notes, and also just keep using your study halls. And as soon as you get an assignment or have to study for a test, make sure you continuously are doing that up until the time the project is due, or until the day of your test, so you aren't overloaded with something in particular on one night.
When I was in high school, I think I just took a lot of pride in my work, and I think that kids need to realize that your work is a representation of you, and you really need to take pride in it and be proud of what you're turning in. And you have to accept responsibility for your grades and your work, and it can't ever be the teacher's fault. You're the one that's turning in the work. I'm now on both ends. I went here and I worked here, and I see a lot of kids who blame teachers and it's their fault, I got a bad grade, but when in reality you really need to take pride and you need to take responsibility for your work. And I think learning how to manage your time and learning how you learn the best is probably the best advice I could give.
What I used to do to study for tests, like I said before, is I would take my book, I would read the whole chapter, and I would rewrite the important things that I thought were important. Then I would check my teacher's notes, see what they thought was important, and then I would make note cards to try to memorize, and me and my dad would go back and forth and talk about what I just learned.
This is one of my favorite questions that I've been asked. My biggest advice when studying for anything is pick a place that you're comfortable in that is away from all technology, because I know that kids these days have cell phones and computers in their room and TVs and anything else that you can possibly think of, but just try it once, and it's amazing what you really can get done if you don't have that access to technology. Set time limits for yourself, like maybe a half an hour. I won't check my phone, or I won't check the computer or Facebook or anything like that for just a half an hour, and the amount of work you can get done, I think you would really surprise yourself. And just make sure that it's a quiet environment, and you stay organized, and you have the materials for your class, and you know what you're studying.
Studying for tests depended on which subject, I think. Some things were a lot easier for me than other classes. I think for math and science especially were where I struggled. I was more of a history and English student. So for those classes, a lot of times I would speak to teachers. I would work with my friends who were maybe better at that subject than I was. And even before or after school, I would come in early and meet with either teachers or the math help in the IRC, for example, or my friends who had been getting great grades on all the tests that I had been struggling with. Work with them through some of the issues I was having hard times with, and then I would do much better on them.
As I said before, make sure that you are studying continuously and not just on one given night, the night before the test. But I think it's also important to find a strategy that works for you. For me, I made flashcards, and I thought it was an easy way to test myself, or if someone else wanted to test me, it was an easy way just to give them the flashcards and they could ask me questions. And also make sure you go in to see your teachers. They are willing to help as much as possible. So if you do have questions, go in and see them as much as you need.
You know, if I could do things differently, I would have tried to, get off to a really good start. You hear teachers, I'm sure, and your counselors and things say that, once your grades start to slip, it's a lot harder to get them back up. Starting out, with good grades your first couple years, usually it would be smooth sailing from there on out. And so really work hard your first couple years to, get those good grades, make sure you're doing your work. In terms of doing things differently, other than that, I had an unbelievable experience at this high school. You hear some people say, I really didn't like high school, or I liked college better, things like that. I absolutely loved going to Libertyville first, going to Vernon Hills second, and graduating from here. I feel like I was very privileged to go to such a great high school. Great coaches, great teachers, great support staff. They really do things well at this school. Everything that they do because they really are passionate about seeing students grow, helping them get to whatever next level that they want to get to. So I feel like I was very fortunate.
I wish that I would have found right when I was a freshman that it is okay to ask people for help. It's okay. The teachers are there to help you. Even your peers are there to help you. Maybe they understand the subject better than you. You can always ask them. Just always, always don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the most important thing.
Looking back, I would have tried to truly not let anybody influence any decisions you make, and just realize that you only get 4 years here, and it's going to go by quickly, and when you think back, you're going to realize how quickly it really went. So just make sure that you're doing things for you, and you're making yourself happy, and you're getting yourself involved in any clubs, sports, fine arts, anything, despite what you may think other people might think of you.
I know that a lot of students, when they get to be juniors and seniors, they think that that's going to be the time when they're going to work on their grades, and as freshmen and sophomores, it doesn't matter so much. It's the exact opposite is true. When you're working hard as a freshman, sophomore, then you develop those skills that you need as a junior and senior, and that's what colleges are looking for. So even as a freshman, you need to be thinking about how your grades are going to look to different colleges.
There are a few things I would like to go back and redo, and just make sure that I get involved early, and also don't be intimidated. Make sure I ask questions in class if I actually had a question, and just don't be influenced by others. Be your own person.
I have to say I definitely, from high school to college, Vernon Hills High School definitely prepares you to be a good college student. I always felt like I was more prepared than the other students that didn't go to Vernon Hills.
In college, you have a lot more tests, a lot more projects due on any given day, so make sure to keep a calendar and use your time wisely throughout the week. And also, learning to work with others is something I learned to do here, and not just working with my friends, but working with a variety of different people. It's something you're going to be doing in college and throughout your career, so it's very important to learn how to get along with others and work together.
Especially, I remember when I would get assignments for research papers especially, I would take the assignment and go straight from class to the library instead of waiting 3 days, 4 days, 5 days to do my research. I would get on it immediately, and then when I got started on it early, I had more time to edit, more time to revise, more time to look over my paper, so that by the end I was getting A's on papers in colleges in classes where every other student was getting B's and C's, because I was the one that took advantage of the time I had and made a good use of it.
If you guys make sure that you guys realize that, you know, the world's not coming to an end with one test grade. The world's not coming to an end because you got in a fight with one of your friends. Everything's about how you bounce back from things like that. You can't let, I had a baseball coach that used to tell me, don't let one error turn into 3. All right, you let a ball go through your legs at shortstop. If you're still thinking about that 2 plays later and you get another ball hit to you, well, probably going to be another error. All right, you've got to, anytime something bad happens, try to get it out of your head, learn from your mistakes, all right, don't let them happen again, and move on with your life. All right, it's not, you can't just dwell on one little mistake or if something bad happens. So a little bit of advice from somebody who's been through some difficult situations and bounce back from them. And I'm sure you'll probably hear that from the rest of the people being interviewed for this. And that's probably the number one piece of advice that I'll leave you guys with is, you know, anytime something bad happens, bounce back from it. You know, look past the bad thing to what can we do to make it better. All right, not to mention that teachers at this high school, authority figures, I know some students think that they hold grudges. All right, so if a student gets a bad grade on a test, they feel like, oh, the teacher hates me, or now, you know, the teacher doesn't like me. That's not true at all. Everybody at this high school wants to see people succeed. All right, teachers can put things out of their mind very quickly. They have short memories when it comes to things like that. A student walks into a class late a couple times, they have to give them a detention. Okay, they give them the detention, the student goes and serves the detention, everybody moves on. Teachers don't get mad at students, they don't hold grudges. Okay, so don't be afraid to go up and you know, communicate with teachers. Even if you think that, you know, they're upset with you for getting a bad grade on a test or something like that. Teachers don't get like that, at least not at this high school.
The last thing I would love to tell you guys is just you all are super lucky that you're at Vernon Hills High School. And I've seen a lot of high schools, and I've been to college, and I've met people that went to other high schools, and I'm not sure that any high school is really like this one. The amount of care that the teachers have for all of you guys, and just the education and the quality of teachers that you're getting here is truly incomparable to high schools around the state and in the area. And just take advantage of it, and take advantage of the millions of clubs and fine arts and sports teams, and do whatever you can while you can, because it goes quickly.